Today we're going to talk about how to narrow a research topic.
When you're narrowing your research topic, you have to ask yourself the questions who, what, where, when, and why.
Let's see how this works. Let's take the topic of World War I and propaganda. This is much too broad to write in a short paper. We need to look at a more narrow topic, narrowing it down, being more specific.
So how do you narrow the research topic? The first question is who. So World War I propaganda, if we ask the question of who, which countries, maybe we're going to talk about the Allies. Maybe we're going to talk about Central Powers, or we're going to talk about neutrality. And as you can see, with the box that's coming up all pretty, it helps us come up with a new topic.
How to narrow? Well, we can ask what. In World War I is propaganda. There were types of propaganda. One type was to raise money. Another type to increase recruitment. And patriotism and morale. Well, you have to remember that a lot of people were losing their loved ones during this time, so they really wanted to raise that patriotism and morale. World War I propaganda aimed at promoting patriotism and increasing morale.
And we get that from using that research question, what? And the next question is when. When helps us narrow down our topic. So we look at the specific time frame that World War I propaganda was occurring. Prior to the start of the war, during the war, or after the war. And that will help us narrow the topic. The development of British propaganda over the course of World War I. So I'm talking about during the war.
Next we can look at the question where. World War I propaganda. Places that it was used. It could have been government sponsored. Could have been in the print media or colonial holdings. This information, we could go with government sponsored, and the new topic, the development of government sponsored propaganda during World War I.
And the next question is why. So again, World War I and propaganda is way too big of a topic. So we're going to evaluate why we would choose that topic, and we're going to look at the causes of the propaganda, methods or the types of propaganda, and the outcomes of the propaganda. And a topic that we could generate, or that we would come up with after looking at the why, if we take methods, a topic could be successful propaganda methods used during World War I, if information was dropped from planes, or how the propaganda was successful.
Just thinking from what we've talked about so far, we could mix and match some of these ideas and combine any number of elements to come up with different questions that would lead to interesting topics. Some examples would be comparing and contrasting propaganda used by Allied government to boost morale and patriotism during the war.
Evaluating the effectiveness or impact of British propaganda in raising money to fight World War I.
And analyzing the propaganda methods and mediums used by countries.
So basically that's how we narrow a research topic. If our topic is too broad, we'll struggle to find the correct research, and we'll just feel frustrated and want to give up.